Yo, it's MartydudeVR, and today we're talking about Paint the Town Red VR. I'm not gonna lie, guys, this legitimately might be one of the best flat 2 VR games on the PSVR2 and other platforms, to be quite honest with you. Outside of being one of the goriest games I ever played in VR, this game offers a lot in terms of pure content and honestly, just fun. Paint the Town Red is essentially a sandbox brawler. Now, it was originally released for early access in 2015, but didn't actually come out until 2021. And now in 2024, we're getting a VR game. This is one of those games I legitimately remember seeing back in 2015, 2016, when I was in high school. So this game is really old. Paint the Town Red offers 3 unique game modes: scenarios, arena, and beneath. Before I break down all the game modes, let's talk about how the game actually just feels. So there is a tutorial mode where you can go through, and honestly, it threw me off at first because the arms are really long, but I'm not gonna lie, it helps a lot when you have to punch a lot of enemies. So realistically, your arms are only so long, but they give you a nice bit of help with the arm lengthener. I gotta say, this is some of the best melee combat I've probably played in a VR game because it feels just responsive and really fun. You can also kick. There's even special power-up moves you can do as you beat up enemies and gain levels. You can crouch, jump, and just general movement options. And there's also a really nice accessibility kind of environment in the game. So if you're a newer VR player, you can have a vignette if you need to move around. You can teleport for movement. And honestly, you can tell they put a lot of work into this. Now, it's a lot of flat to VR games, they skip out on a lot of the small things. But Paint the Town Red really captured the essence of a VR game. And you can tell this game was built from the ground up to be a VR game. There's not a port of another game. I really found myself getting kind of lost in the combat because it's just so satisfying. I mean, picking up weapons and bashing enemies with them, it's just really perfecting this game. And honestly, just a lot of fun. Really a treat to play. I mean, there was one point I hit an enemy with like this hammer of dawn ult, and it just felt amazing because you can just see body parts go everywhere. It looks psychopathic, but it was really fun. Another dope thing about this game is as you fight the enemies, they legit break down. So you're like breaking layers of skin, there's arms falling off legs. I mean, you can see pieces of brain. It's really gory, like I said before, but it's like the most voxelized form of gore that I've ever seen. I mean, at one point, a giant enemy punched a smaller enemy, and I tell you, all of his skin and muscle and stuff flew off, and he was just a skeleton. That was mental. That was a very mental moment, and I was like, wow, this game is legitimately serious. Now that I've given the game praises for honestly just generally great gameplay, let's go back and talk about those game modes. First, let's start at scenarios. The scenarios is pretty much a homage to me to the old style of playing Paint the Town Red. These are pretty much standalone levels where you have to be the last one standing and make it out alive. Now, this does include some of the old maps like the pirate ship, the biker bar, the old West Saloon. There's been some new maps added in that kind of spruce up the game for new players of the series. There's also challenge modes and even modifiers you can add to this for even more gameplay. Like I said before, there's a lot of content in this game and only for $20. So we haven't talked about other game modes yet, but honestly, the scenarios is enough really to be its own standalone thing, to be quite honest with you. But luckily, the developers are smart and added more cool stuff for us to do. Next, let's talk about the arena. Now, the arena might be one of my most favorite parts of this game, debatably, I'm not gonna lie. This is essentially a crazy challenge mode. It gives players a chance to test their compatibility against crazy difficult challenges. This arena also includes a endless mode. So pretty much when you play this, you play through a set number of challenges, and it's kind of like a roguelike mode in its own way. Because if you die halfway throughout, you have to start all the way over. And I'm not gonna lie, you realize how fast you can really die in this game. You have to really master taking down big enemies, the movement of the game, using your kicks, using your ults at the right time. There's a lot to master in these modes, and I'm not gonna lie, it is a challenge. I implore anybody who's a speedrunner, because like Souls-like, or any just a type of challenge to really play this game mode. I had so much fun. The first set of challenges are in this kind of gladiator style coliseum, and there's so many enemies on the screen, and there's a lot of enemies you gotta fight at one time. So you have to really perfect your crowd control because these enemies will jump you and they all have weapons and sometimes you don't. So a lot of times that may mean going to one enemy, kicking him down, taking his weapon, and then getting to work on the rest of them. There's even challenges where you have to box enemies with no weapons, just straight hands. And so your shoulders are gonna get really tired after a while playing this game, not gonna lie to you, if you play the arena mode. That being said, let's move on to our last mode, which honestly I think is the main focus, or even kind of the shining thing of this game. The last mode for Paint the Town Red VR is Beneath. So this is a really massive roguelike mode that has 6 unique areas or biomes with multiple procedurally generated levels and a lot of enemy types. You can upgrade weapons yourself. There's hundreds of weapons. There's a lot of weapons. I swear, every run that I did, I didn't get far, guys, I'm not gonna lie, because this game is very hard. I was a little surprised by difficulty. It's actually a really difficult roguelike, and you gotta be on point, and you have to level up correctly or you're gonna get wiped. But this is essentially the story of Paint the Town Red VR. I mean, they explain the scenarios, the arena, and even the state of the world. I didn't know there was Paint the Town Red actual lore, but this is the actual lore with environmental storytelling. Let's talk about the actual classes that you use in Beneath. Now, yes, there are actual classes in Paint the Town Red VR. Like I said before, there's a lot of freaking depth to this game. Now, our first class is the Spectre. This is the fastest class, but it does less damage than most of the other classes. So the ability is a dash, and the powers are speed, enchant, weapon, and teleport. There's also the Vanguard, which is a more all-around class. Now, the weapons do last longer in this class before breaking, and you have the ability to charge a weapon. You can use Light Blast, Restoration, and Smite. Our third class is the Warlock. So the Warlock struggles with weapons, but makes up for it with range attacks. So this is like a sorcerer class. Your ability is a Fireball, and your powers are Seeker, Firebomb, and Chaos, which is actually, I like the Warlock class a lot. Our fourth class is the Brawler. So the Brawler is the slowest class, but it hits harder than any other and has the most health. So you're essentially a tank. You have the ability to kick with this class. Your powers are Shockwave, Stone Skin, and Berserk. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the Brawler is probably my most favorite class outside of the Spectre. So all these classes can be upgraded to a more powerful version with higher stats. There's a lot going on in this one, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is crazy. Even as I'm going over some of this stuff, I haven't even got to a lot of this stuff because it's hidden behind a lot of area you have to go through. So there's a lot of experimentation to go on with this game. You can try different classes, do different builds, and see what fits your playstyle the best. Now let's talk about the enemies. There are approximately 30 unique enemy types across the 6 areas in the game. And honestly, all these enemy types are built using voxels. So you really can break an enemy down by hitting it in the same spot repeatedly, as you can do with pretty much all the enemies, even bosses. The voxel part of this game really helps you because, I mean, like I said before, you can just focus one spot on the enemy and get a quicker kill that way. Some enemies have range attacks like the teleporters or the crystal crabs. I mean, like, they literally shoot giant beams at you and you have to somehow dodge those while fighting other enemies. And then you have the shard lords, which are like the end bosses for, each area. Now, something that threw me off in this game is the Pursuer. Now, this is a giant reaper that follows you around each level after you activate it. Now, it isn't a required activation, but apparently there's something special about the Pursuer that I haven't found yet. But when I did activate the Pursuer and I saw it, it scared the hell out of me. So if you guys figure out what the Pursuer actually does, let me know, because I'm actually really curious. As a whole game, I really don't have a lot of critiques of this one. I guess the only one I could think of is probably a little bit more explanation when you go to the Beneath on like kind of what to do, and that there are classes you can pick from. But honestly, I feel like if you look around enough, you kind of can figure it out. There also is a compass that I forgot to mention this whole review, but there is a compass for when you're in the Beneath. They kind of see where you're going and kind of give you a guide on where you need to go. But like I said before, there's a lot of depth to this game, and honestly, it's probably one of the better flat 2 VR games that I've seen in a while, especially for the PSVR2, outside of, the greats like RE4 and, all those other ones. But this one, don't sleep on it. It's only 20 bucks and honestly gives you a crap ton of content that a lot of these other games just aren't giving you. But I can legit say this is one of the best flat 2 VR games, and I cannot highly recommend it enough. If you got $20 laying around somewhere and you want a good brawler on a PSVR 2, Paint the Town Red VR is the game for you. Go get it. And apparently this is a team of 2 people, so shout out them, because you guys did a really great job, and honestly, putting a lot of these other VR studios to shame. So shout out to them for also sending me a key because I love reviewing PSVR games. So if you want to support the channel, make sure you go to VR.com, use code MartydudeVR, and let me save you some money, man. Make sure you go back and check out my other videos. I have some really good videos on the channel that I think you guys should check out. But it's been with MartydudeVR, and remember, I'm just a dude with VR headset. Peace.